So for me, I'm really, really happy that I'm part of this community that we're all part of. And I'm sure many of you have joined us before on our other gatherings. And one of the objectives is to create this sense that we all belong together, that we're all connected, all of us working with human development in different ways, either it's individuals, groups, or organizations, or in society at large. And so that's one of the reasons why we have these gatherings, and it gives me a lot of meaning to connect in this way. Another one is also to share interpretations and understanding of what the inner development goals are about. And this far during this year, we have talked about adult development, or vertical development. We've talked about exploring our shadow side, and that we worked some exercises on that. And the last gathering we had was getting the sense of Indigenous Americans and their view of how they're connected to the world and how they believe and view development. And this time, I'm very happy to have with us here today the team from 29K. And we'll be talking about what if we could scale human development. So for myself, usually I can help people develop as long as I'm in the room, and it's not very effective. I can maybe do 10, 12, maybe 100 at a time. But what if there was an app? What if there was an app that you could scale this all over the world? And could an app actually help us get more connected? When I look at home, I have my kids, myself, and the family from time to time, everybody looking at their screens, they're disconnected. And it actually turns out that they might have figured this out, how to actually connect through an app on the phone. So I'm very happy to introduce Maria. Why don't you come here? Welcome. But I'm really looking forward for this afternoon and just hear you all share about the 29K and the app and your vision for the future. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Johan, and welcome everyone. A pleasure to see all your faces on the screen, and really looking forward to connecting with you today. Yeah. My name is Maria Mudig. I'm the co-CEO at 29K. I will be joined shortly by my colleague, Fredrik Livheim, and also by Professor Gerard Andersen at 4 p.m. When we shall be exploring the role digital platforms can play in scaling the IDGs. Some of you may already be aware, but for those of you that don't know, 29K is one of the co-founders of the Inner Development Goals Initiative.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but there is really a huge noise. We cannot hear you well. It's like somebody's scratching on the speaker or something.
Okay, so just give it a second. It's Fredrik getting ready to speak. Thank you for saying that. So is it better now? Is it better now?
Better?
Now it seems to work, but it comes and goes. Right. But now it seems okay, yes.
Okay, thank you. Let us know if there's something wrong again so that everybody can hear it perfectly. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll repeat the last one then, just to make sure we're all on the same page. But I was saying some of you may already be aware, but for those of you that don't know, 29K is one of the co-founders of the IDG initiative. We are a Swedish non-profit foundation founded by the Oak Island Foundation, Ekqueret, Norquen Foundation, and Eric Fernholm. Our mission is to scale and democratize inner development to enable systemic change and contribute to a flourishing world. Our belief is that to address the meta crisis that we see in the world today, we need to get to the root of the problem. We need more people with an open mindset, a flexible view of ourselves, our minds, and the world around us. Essentially, the world needs better decision makers at scale. And that is where the IDGs come in. The beauty is that people can learn and develop these skills. This means that it is also within our power to change the world for the better together. Easy in theory, harder, as I'm sure a lot of you will attest here today, in practice. Tools and exercises to help people develop the IDG skills already exist. But they are expensive and available only for the few, until now. 29K has spent the last 2 years building the world's first non-profit, open-sourced, co-created tech platform that focuses on supporting the development of the IDG-skills at scale. We do this via a free 29K app that offers a combination of science-backed courses, exercises, and meditations combined with peer-to-peer support. All content is carefully crafted by leading psychologists and researchers from all over the world. The content we have today has included collaborations with Harvard University, the Karolinska Institute, the University of London Goldsmiths, amongst many others. To date, with over 180,000 downloads and an average rating of 4.8 on mobile app stores and users from over 150 countries, our approach is proving it can scale. Some of you may be aware that today is World Health Day. And even more relevant is that the Psychology Coalition of the UN chose to come out with a statement for this day that highlights the interconnectedness of our own health and the health of the planet, including all creatures living on it. The Psychology Coalition has specifically chosen to incorporate the One Health approach, putting mental health and behavior change perspectives and the related global goals, SDGs, into the same framework to tackle the systemic issues we are facing today. And quoting specifically from the statement, the coalition state, "It is not enough to simply build back to business as usual. A profound health system transformation is needed, where the health and well-being of all life forms is taken into account. This will require a holistic and interdisciplinary approach, which addresses the interconnection of human, animal, and environmental health within the same health system framework." With the IDG initiative now gaining momentum and the prospect of attaining the necessary transformation that is ultimately aspired for through the SDGs, and that with this moving further and further away, we believe the time has now come to ask you in the IDG arena to contribute, connect, and inspire together with us. Humans live on average 29,000 days. Our goal is to make those days count for everyone. I'm now joined by Fredrik, my colleague. Fredrik, as well as being affiliated to the Center for Social Sustainability at the Karolinska Institute, is also the lead content and research strategist at 29K. Welcome, Fredrik.
Thank you. Thank you. I get so glad when I see all your faces on the screen. So glad to be here. And I am very grateful that we can borrow your time. And also, I want to start off with, you have to excuse my Swinglish, my Swedish English. So as Maria mentioned, since 3 years, I'm the content and research strategist at 29K, together with other colleagues, researchers and psychologists we have in-house and are collaborating with, and also I'm at the Karolinska Institute. And I'm a licensed clinical psychologist since 18 years and also have a PhD in clinical neuroscience. And now I'm here to talk about 29K. And so it was so cool to see all of your days in the chat. Together, we have a lot of days. And I will go through a lot of material, and I will invite you to do exercises with us and also share it together with others in breakout rooms later on. Everything is, of course, voluntarily. And there's a lot of material, but the good news, there's no diagnostic test at the end or something like that. So just listen in, what feels true, go with it and keep it. And also, we will share the slides with you, also in a way that you can present it to others if there's something that you would like to share with others. Okay, so
Let's see if this works.
See if it works.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So actually, if you just pause, what I'm going to show you now is 1 minute mood video that sort of gives you the idea of what we want to achieve with 29K. So go ahead, feel free.
Yeah, I think
Okay. So hopefully you got an idea there of what we are working on achieving together with all of you. So I'm clicking. This is a quote from Mark Inc. that I think sums up a lot of the problems in the world. For our own sake, it's time to start rediscovering and reconnecting our lost relationship with nature. I am convinced that the greatest illness of our times is the lack of true connection, and that the cure for the crisis we find ourselves in today can only be solved when we reconnect. Because we didn't only lose our connection with nature, we lost connection with our communities. We lost connection with the people we work with our partners, with our families, and with ourselves. And that leads us on to a lot of the tragic things that we see going on in the world. We see species extinction, climate change, polarization, political crisis, conflict. We just saw pandemic, and now we see war in Europe, and of course elsewhere as well. And what we believe is that those are symptoms, and that there are root causes behind those, and that the root causes comes down to those, that we are disconnected from ourselves, that we are disconnected from the planet, that we are disconnected from each other. So if we were to change this and connect to ourselves, connect to each other, and connect to the planet, what we believe we can see and create together is a flourishing world where we see unity, kindness, care, love, cooperation, and consideration. And now coming back to the bigger framing, everybody is probably familiar with Agenda 2030 and the global goals, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. And here they are. But sadly, it's been going very slowly for us to being able to reach those by 2030. It doesn't look good. So Erik Fernholm, Jakob Trollbäck, and others from the IDG Foundation came together and said, basically, that all the problems we see are caused by human behavior. And we know that we have the possibility to affect human behavior. So isn't there something missing here? Isn't there also that we should probably consider psychological skills that are crucial for organizing behaviors at large? So that's where when the IDGs were born. Now I'm clicking.
It's me.
Okay, they said to you, I should click too. So it doesn't work. Or?
It works. It's
Okay.
just that I answer the chat.
Okay. Okay. So then we have the inner development goals, and the founding partners was the new division 29K and the IDG Foundation. And also a lot of academic partners have stepped on board, like the Stockholm University, the Karolinska Institute, and the School of Economics. We also have international universities that have joined. And also we have supporting partners like companies like IKEA, Spotify, Ericsson, and others. So I really like this coming together of organizations, foundations, and academia, and organizations and people at large, because I think that's the only way we can make this happen at scale, when we connect over different disciplines through multidisciplinary. So you're probably aware with how the skills came, that we went out with a study. I'm also on the research advisory board for the Inner Development Goals movement. So we sent out a questionnaire with asking, please list up to 7 key items that you feel are skills, psychological skills, that are essential for moving towards a sustainable world and the 17 SDGs defined by the UN. And it sort of boiled down after a lot of work into 5 categories and 23 skills. And those are the skills that you now are familiar with, probably. They sort under being, thinking, relating, collaborating, and acting. And then sort of the next question comes, like, how can we sort of scale those? How can we train them? There are several ways, as Johan said, like you can do workshops, you can go in therapy, you can do a lot of things, but are there other ways where we can sort of effectivize how to scale them? And that's where 29K comes in. 29K is the nonprofit platform where we're working, where we do interventions in the forms of apps. And what we just released yesterday, it's brand new, is a system on the web page where you can go in and select the skill that you want to practice. So if you want to practice being, then you click on being, and then you see the sub-skills under being, and you click the ones that you want to train. And then you get suggestions which content, which courses, exercises, and meditation that trains those capacities the most. And this is live right now. So we also have links where you can find this directly. Let's see. So in order not to have it too mindy, I would like to ask you for permission to do an exercise. This is one of my favorite exercises. It's called Your 90th Birthday. And this exercise, with every exercise, of course, you are training a lot of the skills. And those are the skills. You see being, thinking, and acting are the categories. And then the 23 skills that you practice. From those 23 skills, I would say that with this one, you really practice inner compass, integrity and authenticity, perspective-taking skills, long-term orientation and visioning, and perseverance. So if you're fine with that, I would invite you to do a guided meditation for 4 or 5 minutes. So I invite you to find a comfortable position on your seat. And if you are comfortable with that, you can close your eyes, or maybe you want to just have them in front of you. And you can feel that, just feel a connection with your body. Feel that you're totally present right here, right now. You can imagine that your head is hanging in a thread from the roof. So your spine is erect, but still relaxed. Just check in with your body right now. Feel the touch of the feet on the ground, the buttocks towards the surface. And become aware of what you feel right now in your body and your consciousness. What kind of sensations are there? What kind of feelings in the body? What thoughts are passing through your consciousness? Allow yourself to feel everything you know right now at this moment. Now focus your consciousness on breathing. See how your breath enters your body and leaves your body. And you do not need to change how you breathe. Just know how to breathe. Follow breath by breath. Allow yourself to feel everything you know right now at this moment. This is an exercise that sometimes causes strong feelings and sometimes tears. And whatever appears, it's all right for all the feelings to be here. See if you can open up and prepare space for all emotions that show up. You're big enough to contain everything that you're experiencing. Now I invite you to imagine that in some strange way, you have managed to move forward in time and become yourself when you are 90 years old. See where you are. Are you in a room? Are you outdoors? Decide how you want it to look where you are. And imagine that you are there. Really place you there. And you will soon get visit from two friends or relatives who have meant or mean a lot to you. In this future, everyone lives, so anyone can come, even people who are already dead or people who may not be alive when you're 90 years old. And now your task is to decide what you want these people who are important in your life to remember you for. Now let the first of the three people come up to you. What do you want this person to say about you as a friend, partner, son, daughter, or colleague? Imagine that the person says it. And be courageous now and imagine that this person just says what you most want him or her to say, if you could choose completely. Make a small note in the memory of what this person is saying. Now I would like you to do the same with someone else. Decide who you want to come to you. What do you want this other person to tell you? What do you want this person to tell you about, like, how you was like a person? What has your life been about up till now? And even if you do not think you lived up to what you want them to say, let them say it anyway. Do not hold back anything. And then make a small note in the memory of what that person says. The exercise is now coming to an end in a little while, and I will ask you to open your eyes. And once you get ready, I want you to take a few minutes to write down somewhere, like some notes from what those two persons said to you when you were 90 at your 90th birthday. And no one will ever have to see what you have written, so be completely honest with what you are writing. And when you're done with it, you can see if there is something in here that you want to take with you that helps you navigate according to your inner compass. And you can become totally present in your body. Feel that you're present in your body, in the room. In your own pace, you can open your eyes. Maybe you want to stretch a little bit. And the exercise is over. So feel free to take the time to write down some notes if you want to. Go back. And also when you have taken notes, you can, if you want to download the app and go directly into this exercise. If you don't have the app since before, you will just need to do a registration. It takes 15-20 seconds, and then you will come directly to the so you can just hold the camera towards that QR code and click it, and then it will take you to where you can download it for Android or for iPhone, and then you can go into the exercise, your 90th birthday, and there is a little reflection board where you can write down your reflections. And you can also share a comment or two in the chat what was said about you in that reflection. And also we can open the room if there is someone that wants to share something from the exercise with their group. So please feel free to use the chat or raise your hand and share.
Exercise, you can't see the exercise in the app that is already downloaded.
No, I think that's the IDG's integration. That's on the website for now. Because it's not in the app, the mapping.
Yeah.
We can clarify.
Yeah. And why was the app? Why did you develop as an app? And there are already so many meditations apps out there. I was thinking for younger generations, a game might be more appropriate. Do we have an answer to that?
Yeah. It's not a meditation app. It's more than a meditation app. It also has exercise, like longer courses where you can do lessons and you can do it together with others. I will go into more how that works later. And also there are exercises that you can do on the spot. And also there are meditations, but it's much more than meditations. And also, yeah, I've been playing with the idea of a game. I've been working with that for 3 years, but it's I didn't manage to get sponsorship. But with 29K, we have a version, a segment that is for 15 to 20-year-olds. So if you go into the app and you say that you're 15 to 20, then you get into the youth segment. And then if you write in that you're 20, you will get to the adult segment. And now I can see that Jarad showed up.
Yeah.
So if you go to the next slide, we'll introduce Jarad Andersson.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Welcome, Jarad. So Jarad Andersson is a clinical professor that has written 760 research papers, 70 chapters and 20 books. And Jarad was also my co-supervisor for my PhD project. And Jarad is also, I'm always starstruck when I'm around you, Jarad. Jarad was one of the first to do internet research on internet delivery. So there are two big stars in the world, and I would say that Jarad Andersson and Tito in Australia are probably the one that has published the most in this area, and for almost 20 years, and also started the first internet psychiatry unit in Stockholm. Stockholm was first out with that. So welcome, Jarad.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be here.
What did I miss in the presentation?
Nothing. I'm also a practicing psychologist, so I go and see patients not over the internet. And I think that's an important part of my identity, that I work with clients and not necessarily as a professor. Yeah.
And another super skill that you have is that you are very, very good with skateboard.
Yeah, that's thank you for that. I'm an old man, but I still skateboard. I hope someone else is doing that in this audience. If not, let's start.
I'll hold you to that, Jarad, when you come to Stockholm. I'm a novice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I'm going to sort of facilitate a discussion for Fredrik and Gerard now.
Yeah.
And Gerard, we thought we'd kick off this lovely discussion now with a question to you. And that is, what role do you see digital solutions could play in contributing to a sustainable world? And they're thinking both towards strengthening mental health, adult development, but also to cover the prevention gap that we often come into late, and the quality gap. So poor quality that can be partly addressed through digital solutions and work blended with paraprofessionals.
That's a long question, many questions, but challenging as well. I'm usually rather good at predicting the present. Documenting, thinking what do we have and what's user friendly. And if I should put something on top of the list in importance when it comes to digital solutions, is that they should be user friendly. Not overdoing it, not hours in front of a screen, but sort of helpful tools in our life. And I think we've now, following the pandemic, reached a stage where we need to find this balance between what we do in front of our screens and what we do when we're not in front of our screens, including phones. And I'm sure Fredrik agrees with me here that several of the things we do in psychological treatments or advice or recommendations is really not only in front of the screens. It's advice and recommendations and helpful tips and how to act in the real world, not only in front of the computer. So that's one response. I think we should really seriously consider this. How does these tools become a regular part of our lives? Not taking over totally, being helpful. Like there was a time when we couldn't read. We lived in cages, and we finally developed writing and reading. And that was an enormous advantage for humans, that we can communicate. And perhaps these digital solutions are another innovation in terms of communication. When it comes to sustainable environment and the world, that's a huge challenge, particularly during these days now. And it's a sad fact, and I won't go on too long with this. It's a sad fact that these helpful tools we have, digital, are easily manipulated. So it's easy to get a very odd view of the world based on what you see in front of your screen. So what could bring us together can also set us apart. So there are some warning signs here when it comes to that. And I'm sometimes confronted with that. And I'm surprised to see how misinformed you can be through these digital tools. Yeah.
Thank you, Gerard. I know we often raise the same question ultimately, that the tools that really work, versus tools that masquerade, let's say, as science-backed, but just to a very small degree. Also that they need to be user-friendly, so people actually feel like incorporating them in their day-to-day lives in a way that works. But then that very important element, as you say, of the human connection, so you don't just get lost in what you're doing on your own, but have that common humanity, that critical element, to gain perspective and see how can what I'm learning be applied to the world around me. And then it goes back to this, the critical aspect of connection that we are emphasizing, and what we have endeavored to ensure is a critical element within the 29K app, then as part of focusing on scaling inner development.
Yeah.
But we see rising mental health problems in Sweden, And it seems those problems have been increasing, unfortunately, during the pandemic, especially for young adults and already vulnerable groups. And on top of the pandemic, we have the climate crisis, the recent report 2 days ago, and now also a war in Europe, and are facing ultimately an existential risk. World War III, nuclear bombs. Jared and Frederick, do you see any ways psychology can be of help here?
Well, when the bombs are falling down on your head, there's not so much help with psychology, perhaps. But once you leave the situation, and like if you're a refugee, of course, there are ways that we can assist and help. And I work with a researcher in Poland, and I contacted her the other day and we talked. And she worked with a program called New in Town. That was before the pandemic and before how to deal when you're new, because if you move from one city in Poland to another. And now she came up with that, perhaps I could adapt this to all these immigrants. There are a huge number of people coming to Poland. And so the New in Town, and I thought it was a very nice initiative, So of course we have these possible tools, but in the end of the day, when it comes to the, poverty, famine, of course we have the psychology of Maslow had this hierarchy of needs, and we need to remind ourselves sometimes that psychology cannot handle everything. It's when you need food on the table and peace. So I'm humble when it comes to that. Yeah. Same goes with the environment. And I think one interesting thing with 29K is, it sort of approaches this way that we need a community and a movement really to change the world. And I happen to have studied theology as a hobby. I'm a psychology professor who studied theology for 10 years. And I was so amazed by the strength of religious movements. I'm not saying that what we're doing now has anything to do with that, but how you bring people together and make things happen. And we perhaps should have a little look at how they manage, like the large religions in the world. And with all respect to all of you guys who are believing in a higher power of God or whatever, I'm not disrespecting you anyway. I'm just rather impressed by how we can have this movement. There are similar political movements, but religion sort of beats that, really in terms of changing the world. And in Sweden, we have a very secular country, and most people just don't go to church or anything like that. So perhaps there's something missing here, something that brings us together, a community. Those things I think about in these bad times with the environment and war, that we need these ties to make a change. Yeah.
Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, also I've been reflecting on what you're saying, and I think I'm coming back to also like what you said in the first paragraph there, with like if like a lot of the things that we do on the screen, they are driven by economic interests, where the interest is to hijack our attention, because that's where the money comes from, and also they are gathering data on how to hijack our attention even more, and it's commercial interest that drives all of that. And that's also like one of the reasons I see for 29K. If we are to sort of, if we manage to get millions of users doing a lot of material, we will also get a lot of information about the individuals. And I think then it's so important that those kind of data and algorithms are protected, in the sense that we can protect it within a foundation that is very clear in the statutes of the foundation, that those can never be sold to a third party or used for commercial interests. It's just for the better good of humanity, because that will also affect on how you design those kind of interventions. Is it for the greater good of humans, or is it commercialized on human attention? So that was just like one of the aspects. And also like that that commercial interest is also like polarizing, because that's where you also get more engagement, and that's where we see a lot of rifts and maybe even threats towards democracy in USA, as some say as well.
Yeah.
I was also thinking about the other end of the spectrum, because you said like when the bombs are falling, there's not much we can do with psychology, but maybe afterwards. And I was also thinking the other way around. Is there things we can do with psychology not to have the bombs to fall, and not to continue to ruin the climate and so on? And there, I think, I can't remember who said it, but there was someone that said it like, with exponential tech and exponential possibilities we have to take out resources and overfish and stuff like that. We are sort of, and weapons for mass destruction. We are technical gods, but with the morals of an infant. And,
Yeah.
and here I think that also there are things that we know from psychology. We can learn how to connect to ourselves, connect to each other, and live more in harmony with nature in ways that maybe psychological skills that we can scale to make us wiser stewards of this beautiful blue planet that we are cruising on in space.
I can perhaps comment on that. Let's note that there are some questions perhaps we should attend to, but he's a rather controversial guy, psychologist Steven Pinker. He wrote a book about violence, Angels of a Better Nature. And people were very angry at him because he showed that violence has actually decreased. You know, we were more likely to kill each other during the Stone Age. You know, but he also had some advice. He said that gender equality, democracy, and a sensible, functional market economy usually goes against war and conflict, because it's bad to kill your customer, right? You know, and what we see now happening is all against that, because it's bad for economy, it's bad for the sensible, responsible economy when it comes to environment. It's very bad for democracy. Sadly to say, democracy, the proportion of countries with a functioning democracy has gone down in 10 years. And then finally, I do suspect that what happens now in Ukraine is not so good for the women, not for the men either, but you know, so all these things go in the wrong direction. So of course, you know, we can think along the lines of what at least the psychologist said. You know, I haven't been disproved when I think he has some points here, but then, you know, leadership, there are some good psychological theories about leaderships that is not related to the leader, but the group who leads. So why do we choose these leaders? So Adolf Hitler, it's perhaps more interesting why he was chosen, or there are some other guys, this other guy in the US, you know what I'm talking, yeah. And the evolutionary aspects of why do we listen to these often guys, you know, so that's so we do have some lessons to learn from psychology, and that could help us potentially prevent, but not in the absence of freedom of speech, democracy, collaboration. In research, it's definitely the case that war is this Soviet former Russia thing is very bad for research as well, you know, because we cannot collaborate with researchers in Russia to the same. So all in the wrong direction. Yeah.
I mean, with this in mind, you know, based on your psychological knowledge, what do you think about the already developed 23 psychological skills, the inner development goals, and their relevance for moving towards a more sustainable world and more sustainable choices, you know, with what you're saying now?
Yeah, but who could be against them? You know, these are very important thing, like being sort of almost philosophical, being the freedom of being able to think critically, be awareness, all these both cognitive skills and the importance of relationships. You know, I would definitely say that I have nothing against, and I think they're very well phrased. On a more critical note, perhaps you could, as a researcher, say, but how do you put that into practice? How do you specifically operationalize, I think it's called, you know? But I'm a believer in the importance of values and goals. We use them quite a lot when we work as psychologists because it's sort of higher motives. But at the end of the day, it's also a question of practical problem solving, you know. Yeah, so I don't know if it was a response, but it's how do we foster these things in a good way to reach these goals?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And my view on it, also being on the research advisory board for the Inner Development Goals movement, that and also had a discussion with Professor Stephen Hayes around this not long ago, that the first step is we see a little bit more of a communication project to define, like, probably we need to look at psychological skills. They are relevant if we are to move at scale towards the Sustainable Development Goals. And there we need to get a consensus from academia, from organizations, from others on where to work. But then comes the important part now, when we have sort of reached that consensus, to really operationalize them, as you're saying, but also to measure them. Like, now we have mapped what courses you can train the different skills with, but then also, of course, to measure, do we actually improve on the IDGs, the Inner Development Goals? And also in the next step, does that have an effect towards behaviors towards the Sustainable Development Goals? And that's also the beauty of digital platforms. And also when you have a lot of users, and you can both like measure within the app, but you can also connect that to the research studies that are outside of the app, connected with the data from the app. But I see those as really relevant steps. So I totally agree with you there, Yara.
And Jared, what is it, in your opinion, then the role and need for scalable digital platforms like 29K to be able to train these skill sets? You know, Fredrik, you just said how we will map them out and connect them. And I see Nick, also thank you for your comment on are there other methods for scaling the IDG outcomes? Have they been explored? And what can you use to facilitate local groups and communities, and even facilitate primarily offline? And I think you know, it would be great to get your input, Gerard, and also we can also explain a bit how 29K works. Fredrik will be doing that shortly, and that will answer your question, Nick.
Yeah, I'm all thumbs up for 29K, of course. What are the threats? Well, one threat is that digital solutions, I think it was alluded to in the comments here, might be very temporary in nature. You know, most apps that existed 10 years ago won't exist now, you know, because whereas this book, Bible is one example, there are some other texts, have been existing for thousands of years. So why not use this old format if it's okay with the environment to print another book? You know, I've always thought along those lines. So actually, when we developed our internet treatments for problems, we noticed that this does not reach everyone. So we transformed them into self-help books and had them published. And so it went the other direction. It went from digital to the old school physical book. So I think that's a very important comment. But of course, you know, I think it's a responsibility for 29K. And I think what Fredrik said here about the non-commercial route sort of makes it possible to have this sustainable. So it will last, perhaps not for 1,000 years, but at least longer than the lifetime of many digital solutions, because that's sometimes a risk. On the other hand, we've actually succeeded. I started by coincidence 1998 with internet treatments. And we started in the clinic in Uppsala for ringing in the ears, tinnitus, my topic I've worked a lot with, in around 99 or 2000. And it's still there in the clinic in Uppsala. Implemented very quickly, and it stayed. So it's possible to have a 20-year-old digital solution. It's just that we need to plan for it, and not only for extra capital for risk, all these business problems with short-term solutions. Yeah.
And I think you really hit on the relevancy ultimately, and why we as an organization, 29K, really are striving to remain as a non-profit in a very commercial world. Ultimately, it is not. I can say it's not cheap to build a platform, a tech platform, but we have had very far-thinking philanthropists and foundations that see the importance of having a non-profit platform in this space. If especially we are to promote behaviors ultimately that we will believe can change en masse how people approach themselves and those around them and the planet at large. And one way we could answer, Vaish, you said how can an app or platform like 29K convert not the converted, but those that are not converted yet? And ultimately, one, it is by gathering momentum for those that have understood that inner development is a key part of thriving in one's life. But the other is opening out this type of platform for co-creation, taking a wiki approach. We are not a sort of a 1 or 20 person army. It is the platform itself is built as a co-creation open source research platform to invite all in the IDG movement and larger movement for mental health to come and contribute and ultimately see that it does come into the hands of those that most need it. And it is like Wikipedia. Before, if you were looking for information, you went to your bookcase and you had, hopefully, if you were lucky enough, your set or your parents' set of an encyclopedia to look up things. Wikipedia changed people's behavior globally because you wiki it. It's come into the English language. It's the same thing when it comes to working on yourself, your inner development and basic mental health. That's the same approach and aspiration we have with this type of platform, where you need it and use it. Not, maybe there'll be some things you do daily, like brushing your teeth, but then there will be other things you might do once or twice a year. You have your 36 love questions. I know, aspire to do with my husband once a year, but it's about incorporating it in and spreading the word. Frederick, Jared, is there sort of a final, I'm just seeing time-wise, sort of message you would like to share with everyone here today around what it is we're trying to do, and ultimately the power of psychological abilities to be relevant towards achieving the Agenda 2030 and SDGs and a more sustainable world?
Yeah, I think, this sound perhaps I'm too optimistic, but I think we really should not lose our hope, because in a world where so many bad things are happening, it's easy to give up, and just don't care. So I think, if anything, 29K and similar movements, I should say, could bring back some hope. It's not really good for our health to be reminded constantly of these bad things. And I have a recommendation for those of you who can. Pick up some local news. I read the local newspaper here in Linköping, Sweden, and I hear about someone who got stopped in a car and had drank too much, but then explained himself. So said, "No, it wasn't me. It was someone." These funny small stories and even some nice stories. We need to get back to the local community. We're not only the world. So that's my recommendation for today. So pick up your community, your local news, what happens in your close environment, and not only news about war and these terrible things that happen, to balance the negatives. Yeah, that's my advice.
Thank you, Gerard. And to pick up on that one, I think that I totally agree. And especially for young adults, they might be especially sensitive to losing hope, and especially when they are fed with the climate crisis, the pandemic, the war, and others. It's easy to get overwhelmed. And I think that we both need examples of there are possible things you can do to change the world, but sometimes we also need to. We know a lot within psychology, and how can we get that out so we can help young people and adults to not get overwhelmed, but to actually make space for those emotions, deal with them, and act in meaningful ways towards a better society. And there, I think we have a lot of things we can do with different movements. And 29K is one of many tools. And I think that one of the things that I find really hopeful also is the thing that we have noticed, that if we get someone to do a course on the platform and they do one video sharing together with others, that's when it becomes meaningful. And then they work together, more half of them work together on the platform in their groups over 3.5 months, just with peer-to-peer support. And I think that's some, and it's also scalable. And I think those kind of solutions are really needed to marry tech and human connection.
And just to answer then, Natalie, your question, of course, there is great power in meeting in local communities. And all the interventions that are available in the app, in the 29K app, ultimately, you can take these and apply them and use them in the local community meetings and meetups. We have a resource page. We will share the link later. So whilst there are facilitation guidelines for the sharing that come up automatically if you're doing the sharing in the app, you can just download those and meet locally and meet in person with do the sharing with your family or colleagues, friends, or in your local community group. Just because it's in the app, that just means our focus is on democratizing and ensuring accessibility to all with a phone. Then how you use it, print it out, use it locally in person, that's brilliant if you can take it there. It's about ensuring the person on the rice paddy field or in the jungle, as well as in their office in a skyscraper in the middle of their day, can access the same tools and don't have to pay anything for it because everything is free. And that is where it's the power of this type of ambition of the platform.
Yeah, I agree. And there another example is we're teaming up with Crossing Border Education to reach 300 students. So there we have 300,000 students. So around Europe, and there they have facilitated groups on campus where they meet in real life, and then they practice in the 29K platform between those meetings and in smaller groups.
Yeah, but Gerard, not cover my microphone. Gerard, thank you so much for joining us today. Frederick is going to lead us now into a self-compassion exercise, and keen to give him some time for that. But really appreciated, Gerard, talking with you today.
Thank you.
And please do stay if you want to get some taste of Frederick in action.
Thanks a lot for inviting me and for this interesting work you do. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yara. Thank you for joining. Okay, so let's see if we can. So what I will do is I will tell you a little bit more about the 29K platform, and then we will dive into doing real exercises from within the platform.
Wait, let me share this one.
Okay. Thank you, Yuan. And let's see if it works. So we believe that there are 3 essential components we need for all the tools that everything that we build within the platform. And that is that we build it on things that have been proven to work in other contexts, evidence-based tool. And then that we match those tools to the user's need, of course. And we also believe that another key aspect is if you are to get any effects, you probably need to practice over time and also practice what you learn in real life over time. And we believe that another key component is that if you just learn by yourself, it's not going to be exciting and you won't do it over time. So then we have the safe and trusting relationships, like you train in a context that is rich with human connection. So those are the three ingredients we optimize for in everything we do within the app. And just to sort of give you an idea, because we're going to dive into the self-compassion course, which is one of the courses, longer courses that we have. So we looked at what kind of psychological skills do we know work transdiagnostically, works for many different kind of problems. And we know that self-compassion seems to be a really effective and potent ingredient. So then we looked around in the world, who are the best experts in the world on self-compassion? And we contacted Dr. Christine Neff and Dr. Chris Germer in the US, who are world-leading experts in the field, and asked them, would you like to do a self-compassion course with us? And they were willing to do it. So we built it, and we also then have very great designers and programmers that can make it really user-friendly. So package it into the app and then make a format where you can practice this together with others. So basically you can sign up with a course and also do it together with others with video sharing that is built into the app. So either you can do it by yourself, you create a hidden group and invite others that you want to do it with, or you can just go into the app and see what groups are there and join one existing group. And then also to add another layer of human connection, we are collaborating with ambassadors. So some of the ambassadors that we have in the app is Jan Eliasson, the former Vice Deputy of the UN, and Rachel Brethen, also known as Yoga Girl. She has, I think, 3 million followers or something like that. And then you can follow her when she does the self-compassion course, not as the guru, because the material is already there, but what does her inner critic sound like? What does her inner critic kind voice say? So that's the sort of combo and how we're working with it. Then let's see. And we have, now I'm going to show you just 1 minute where we have real video sharings, snippets from real video sharings. So this is Rachel Brethen, also known as Yoga Girl, where she talks about her experience of doing sharings. And also you will see cuts from real sharings, 1 minute. So please go. Yeah. Yeah.
So just give me a moment. I have to switch in.
Sharing is it might be the most important part of this course for me, because it's so different from regular conversation. So doing the sharings where someone just holds the space for me to talk is a way for me to go much deeper.
Yeah, well, I'm grateful because the sharing thing, it just was a reminder for something that I already know.
Even though I don't know you, I feel a lot of love and I want to give all my support to you.
So it's very powerful, like to share and...
Well, that's what life is. Connecting with people, understanding them, that everybody has their own shit.
But we share our shit, and then it's our shit. And we're not alone anymore.
An hour ago I have met you, and now... yeah.
Really grateful. Now I'm crying also.
So that was sharings from the chat. So we also like get a lot of comments, like when people after 3-4 sessions that like, you people that are in this group, you know more about me than my family does. And also it became evident that when you have done a course together and you get to know other people, that you want to continue and do other courses on in the platform. So now we have made, before a video share group was connected to a course, but now you are free to create a group and then walk around and do different kind of courses within the app.
Share.
And also, when you join a video sharing group, you also get a group chat. So you can both see automatically, like, oh, Maria has done her lesson 1, and I want to do lesson 1. And also, we have our sharings on Fridays at 11. Then you get a reminder that tomorrow is your sharing day, and 1 hour before, you get a bot message that reminds you about it. So it's also like building human connection when you're doing the course together, not just when you're doing the video sharing, but that you actually like do the whole journey together as a group. And this one I added just to give an overview of our longer courses. So we have 10 longer courses that is about values, self-compassion, leadership, values-based action, dealing with stress, deepening relationships, and so on. And all material and all courses are available in English, Swedish, and Portuguese. And also now we have 2 more courses that's not here, and that's coping with war anxiety, that is also available in Ukrainian and Russian. Can you go to next? And this is also like what we mentioned a little bit with Yara, that the whole idea is that to build this as a research platform. So in the sense that if we have a lot of users and a lot of material, we can down the way, maybe in 2 years, 1-2 years, we can start applying artificial intelligence and machine learning to learn what is it that actually works and what are the processes that makes the intervention work, so we can make them even more effective. And also we can see from the user feedback all the time as well, what people think about the exercises and which gets lower rating and so on. And also we are already doing studies where we are combining data from that are collected through the university, and then they're randomized outside of the app, and then they go through the app, and we measure it through the university outside of the app, and we combine the user data from within the app with those kind of data. So it's easy to get a lot of knowledge out of it as well.
We have a question here.
Yes.
Are you planning to introduce more languages over time? What are the thoughts about that?
Yes.
Should I come back?
Yeah, you can.
Go for it.
Yes, the languages. It's a lot of material to translate, but we are happy to have that co-created. So we have built the content management system, so actually people can work on translations outside of the app. So we are, like, for instance, Danish is something that we're exploring to get funding to do a Danish version of it. We have people from Italy that are interested in doing it in Italian. We have people wanting to make it available in Spanish. So basically, both if you're willing to sort of volunteer and help out to translate, that could be one option. And maybe even better if you have connections to philanthropists or to foundations that would be interested in helping funding so we can get going in another language, because usually you need a person in that country as well that is culturally sensitive psychologists that know how to translate, but also like campaigns to get it out to the broader public. Okay, next. So we have, as I mentioned, we have 10 longer courses, but all those choices, I don't know about you, but sometimes I get so tired of choosing. So here we sort of compiled a little bit-sized smorgasbord that we suggest you to choose from. And this is also to build community from us that are sort of in this inner development goals field, to do courses together, to get to know each other leading up to the big event, the 29th of April. So in the end, you will be given the opportunity to sign up for one of those courses if you want to. So one is the self-compassion course, that is 7 lessons that we will dive into a bit more. We have one that is called Acting with Purpose, that is a lot about values, a 3-lesson course. And also we have a 10-day challenge where you get a challenge for every day for 10 days that I will show you a little bit about. Okay, next. So I said that we know that there is a lot of research for self-compassion. A Swedish study from my research group has also tested self-compassion in the format of an app, and it seems to work well, even when compared to a mindfulness app. You can go to next. And I said we built it with Christine and Chris. You can go to next. And we have done a pre-post study where we had a control group, and those are the ones in yellow, and they got worse on everything because it was a very stressful period. And if you use the app, those are the orange one. There we can see some increases. But this is a really small study. We want to do more studies. So then if you do the self-compassion course, what skills do you train? So if you go into the app in the About section, then you will see those kind of numbers. So those are the IDG-skills, and the scale is from 0 to 100. So 100 is like, this is, you really train this one. So if you're doing the self-compassion course, of course, the skill that is highest is empathy and compassion. And also self-awareness and presence and perspective-taking skills. And then you can, if you want to, you can click more and see the percentage on all the other skills as well. So all the 23 skills are mapped. And this is also then what the sorting function on the web page does, that it sort of helps you to the right courses and exercises and meditations according to what you want to train. And there you can also see that usually this some of the like perspective taking skills are of course higher if you do this with a group as compared to alone. So now this is this is what it looks like in lesson 1 in the self-compassion course called the inner critic. So then there is a little picture with Rachel, which says, "I can't believe I go through life with this voice and still get good things done." In our everyday lives, we often expect ourselves to be perfect at several roles at the same time: the amazing friend, the loving partner, the great coworker. Eventually, we just don't add up, and then we judge ourselves for not being better or doing more. The language we use towards ourselves in these situations is often critical, judgmental, and forceful, using words like must and should or have to. This voice we refer to as the inner critic. So now you can hear, this is also in the app, so you can hear Rachel talk about her inner critic.
So,
let me just shift here, shift screen.
my inner critic is full of total contrasts and absolute nonsense. So I feel inadequate whenever I leave my baby, whether it's to go do laundry or to go have a cup of coffee, or specifically when I go to work every day, because it's a part of me feels like I shouldn't be working at all. I should be home and just be a mom. I also feel very inadequate when I don't work enough. So I feel like I should do more. I should accomplish more. I should be a better boss. I should take advantage of more opportunity. I should do more. I should work harder, much, much harder. So I feel really guilty when I'm not present in work engagements or with the team or with my areas of business. But I feel much guiltier when I'm not with the baby, which means leaves me with no option at all. And it makes me sometimes kind of like I'm waiting for everyone to figure out that I'm just a big fraud. I don't know any of this. I think I'm helping people somehow, or I talk about being an inspiration or sharing my life in different ways to do good things, but maybe at the end of the day they will all just realize that it's I don't know anything. Really, I should crawl back in my little cave and not try to be of service because I'm not. Like, I don't have that power. And that's a pretty hard truth to be faced with. Like, no matter how I orchestrate life or my surroundings around me, there's no out. Yeah.
So that's Rachel's inner critic. And now the invitation is to write down what your inner critic says. So we'll get back to the deck, and you can go to next.
So
now take a couple of minutes to write down your answers on a piece of paper. So first find a situation which you feel inadequate and write it down as objectively as possible. I feel inadequate when I see myself in the mirror in the morning, for instance. And then write down what the inner critic says and try to be as specific as you can. For example, you'll never make it. I'm sure you'll disappoint them. So take a couple of minutes to do that right now. Okay, welcome back. So that was the hard one, the inner critic. And there is also something called the inner friend. This is also text from within the app. First, think back to the situation that you wrote about just now. Now imagine how you would respond to a friend in the same situation. Someone who knows your weaknesses and strength, who is loving you and doesn't judge. A friend that understands your personal history and sees the things that are out of your control. So your task is to explore what your friend would say to you in the same situation. Most people don't know it exists. So imagine having an inner ally or friend, someone on your side, on the inside, someone who supports you and believes in you unconditionally. This next step is an exercise in looking inward and uncovering this voice. So if we go to next slide. So then write down, think back to the same feeling of inadequacy, and what would a friend who loves you deeply say to you in this situation? So just take 1 minute to write down what a friend would say. Try to be as specific as you can. For example, I deeply care about you, and that's why I'd like to help you make a change. I love you, and I don't want you to suffer. So take 3 minutes and write down your answers on a piece of paper. And at the same time, while you're writing, you can see Rachel share her inner friend.
So for me, this portion was easier. It was hard to start because it feels strange to address yourself in that way. But then when I think of it, it's strange that I address myself in the negative way all day long. So, but once I started writing, it felt really obvious, like really, like, yeah. So, dear Rachel, you are doing so much. The things you take on each year are vaster and larger than many people do in an entire lifetime. You are a good mother. Let me repeat that. You are a good mother. The amount of love Lea Luna is surrounded by is totally out of this world. She's so loved and so held and so safe. What you are doing now is all enough. Everything you are is enough. By being who you are and by showing up in the world the way you do, you inspire people to show up with that same realness too. Waking up in the morning every day, you are making a difference. Leaving your baby to go to work does not mean that you are in any way lesser or a worse mother, or that you love her less, or that she's lacking. She has a father that loves her the same as you do, and he is just as able to care for her as you are. She is not receiving less love when you are not physically present, but having two parents that are present with her in different ways is a huge blessing. And you are beautiful just the way you are. This is really beautiful, this voice. Like, it's almost the fact that I can even walk through life with this other voice and still get good things done is kind of miraculous. Like when it's on paper like this, the fact that this voice is not the first voice that's present, and still I'm doing something good. It's kind of amazing. I think I'm gonna print this and put it on my fridge or somewhere where, like, especially the mother part, because it's clearly a big theme for me right now. I mean, it's new also, but like a little reminder when I drop into that place, because it happens every day. Like, yeah.
Great, thank you. So we only have 6-7 minutes left, and we want to end on time to honor your time. So we will go through quite quickly. The rest you can go to next. So you can go to next. And so the smorgasbord to choose from, I think Samuel has shared in the chat the 3 choices. So Samuel will send out a Google form where you can just write your email address and which course you are interested in doing, and then we will send out links so you can form groups and get started. And of course, if you don't want to get assigned to a group, but you actually want to create a group that is hidden from others, and you decide whom to invite from that group from within the video sharing function, you can do that as well. And you can go to next. We haven't said anything about the 10-day challenge, but that was released 1 week ago with a Swedish artist called Sandro Cavazza. He has 3.5 billion digital streams and had been doing songs with Avicii and Kygo and others, and decided that he don't want to be on stage anymore. So he wanted to give up his career as an artist to continue to write songs, but to follow his inner compass. And it was difficult because there was a lot of expectations from managers and fans and others, but he decided to go for it. And now he has next week his last concert and released his last video, but also stepped up as an ambassador for 29K. And you can do a 10-day challenge together with Sandra where he greets you welcome, and then you can follow what he does in the app. So it's 10 short exercises to follow your values. You can go to next. Oops, sorry. Oh, it works. And those you can check in the deck. Those are the main skills. You especially work on inner compass, integrity, and authenticity, sense making, appreciation, trust, and courage. And we have a film that is 3 minutes that I will not share now, but if Samuel, if you would like to share it in the chat, you can send a link to it, or just aside. But this is what it looks like when you get into the app, and Sandro greets you welcome. So Samuel has sent into the chat the Google Doc where you can sign up if you want to get help with being assigned to a group, and we will email you on that. And here is also another way of getting it. So you can either click in the chat, or you can hold your camera to come to this Google Doc.
And ultimately, as you see here, it's around giving everyone here a chance to connect together within the IDG community, but actually then to, let's say, walk the talk and practice some of the IDG skill sets. So you're more than welcome, of course, to download the app and check it out and do anything you want that you feel relevant or not. But this is, if you want us to help you get going, then feel free to sign up, and we will create the groups for you with everyone that signs up in the forum. So you yourselves can meet with everyone that's present today, can meet with some other of the others in one of the courses that you want. I'm conscious we have a couple of questions in the chat. I would love to answer them. Don't want to ignore you, and we have a couple of minutes. I'll do my best, and also so that others have a chance to ask any questions. When it comes to the co-creation aspect, absolutely, Natalie, the aspiration is to be a Wikipedia, let's say, for mental health and inner development. Right now, the way co-creation works is either if you can come with funding or support us to get funding in order to then create together an intervention that we then put out in the app. Going forward, when we the aim, of course, is to set up a framework where anyone can come in and put their intervention directly into the app, subject to obviously certain criteria having to be fulfilled, especially around quality and research backing, etc. And that takes us into, Patricia, your question on what distinguishes us. And as far as I know, we are the only non-profit peer-to-peer support inner development app in the world that is completely free and no commercial interests, and is 100% evidence-based. And everything that is there is for your own benefit and no one else's. We are taking a wiki approach, so it's very much around all your life needs rather than one specialized. But we, of course, anticipate that we can't do this alone. We need to be many platforms. We need to be many tools. We just want to ensure that everyone has accessibility to the best tools. And going forward, of course, that means, as one of the founders of the IDG initiative, that we will have the spread of the skill sets, the 23 skill sets within the IDG categories.
Perfect, thank you. And I think if you just go forward to the, we will end very soon. So I will just show you the last slide here where you need to share the screen. Okay, so basically you will get a link to the Google slides so you can present it, and you can also click on the IDG guide if you want to get directly to where you can sort of see, I want to train these skills, what relevant material do we have within the app. And also the presentation, and also the link to the Google form where you can sign up for getting assigned to a group. And also we have created material on how to start a group in Swedish and English, and also a direct link to the big 29th April IDG Summit that we all look forward to. And I think...
And just before, we also have a resources page at the bottom of our webpage where you can also download facilitation guidelines if you want to do your sharing in your local community group that was asked earlier today.
And next, I think, is the roundup to where we check out. So
you want to share more slides?
Yeah, last slide, and that's the next one. Next one. So Maria, you want to take it away?
It's just want to say thank you everyone so much for being with us today, and for your curiosity and openness and courage also to those that took the time to do the self-reflection exercise, and I'd love to invite everyone to share in the chat which skill set or quality is alive in you that you would like to check out with today. Fredrik, what are you checking out with?
I'm checking out with almost all of them, but a lot of optimism. I just get so happy when I see your faces on the screen, and be reminded of that I'm not alone. We're many working on this together to create a more sustainable and flourishing world. Thank you.
All right. So, and I also want to, do you want to add something, Maria? Or?
No, just thank you again, everyone.
Okay. So I just want to say thank you to you and to Gerard also for sharing this fantastic and amazing technology for scaling personal development. And again, remind about April 29th. And I was looking at the skills and I'd like to check out, I'd say this has been a great collaboration between all of us, this virtual team, and I thank you very much. And I would like to invite all of you to just turn on your microphones and join me in saying thank you, but in your own language. So let's just have some chaotic thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Hej då.